I've always been with Umbrella.
This is my life's work. I'm not handing over anything.
Revenge on Umbrella.
One thing I really love about Resident Evil is how unapologetically evil its villains are. Villains have no tragic backstories motivating their villainy, Miranda, Evelyn, and maybe the Bakers being some of the only exceptions to this. Villains villain because they want to create a race of superhumans they can then lord over as their god, because they want to create the gnarliest bioweapon the world has ever seen that they can sell for a profit, or as revenge for someone stealing their research. Resident Evil is a cesspool of deranged villains rotten to the core, and I love it. Today we're going over Resident Evil's top 3 evilest villains. Heads up, this video will have spoilers for Resident Evil 5. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Luffy and welcome to my channel. I talk video games and character analysis, so if that's your thing, subscribe and stick around. Let's hop right into our list of top 3 evilest Resident Evil villains. Number 3, Chief Irons.
I'm not letting anyone leave my town. Everyone's gonna die.
Chief Irons may not be on most people's list of top 3 evilest Resident Evil villains, but he's one of the most disgusting characters in Resident Evil, so he had to make my list. Chief Irons is a giant creep, only out for himself and what he can do to tickle his fancy. In the middle of Resident Evil 2, Chris receives a fax, which is intercepted by his sister Claire, warning him that Chief Irons is, and always has been, violent and a little unstable. The fax reveals Chief Irons had been arrested twice while in university for attacking women. After his time in university, Chief Irons goes on to be the chief of police at the Raccoon City Police Department. The problem is, Chief Irons is in Umbrella's pocket. Umbrella bribes Chief Irons with thousands of dollars monthly, fueling his obsession with expensive art. Remember how a couple of videos ago we were wondering why it took so long for the RPD to investigate those hikers' disappearances and shut the road that led to the Arklay Mountains? Well, we have Chief Irons to thank for that delay in action. Umbrella didn't want RPD investigating and discovering their loose BOWs, so Chief Irons delayed taking action until they really could ignore the disappearances no longer. If Chief Irons had acted faster, he may have saved the lives of some of those hikers.
Those monsters from Umbrella have destroyed my beautiful town. How could they do that to me after everything I've done for them?
As we know, the zombies in the forest don't stay in the forest for long and soon move into Raccoon City to start chomping on the citizens. You'd think when the city was overrun, Chief Irons would do everything he could to save people, but no, he's evil, so he does the opposite. Chief Irons scatters the weapons munitions RPD has all across the police headquarters to make it that much more difficult for the RPD to arm themselves properly for the unfolding tragedy. This shifts the focus from saving as many people as possible for the RPD to trying to recover their munitions to protect themselves. With the RPD thrown into chaos, Chief Irons then stalks RPD headquarters to pick off officers one by one. Chief Irons expresses with glee the sick satisfaction he got from doing it in a note, writing in his diary, "I shot Ed in the back through the heart less than an hour ago. I watched him writhe in pain upon the floor in a pool of his own blood. The expression on his face was positively exquisite. He died with his eyes wide open, staring up at me. It was beautiful." Beyond picking off the survivors, Chief Irons is also hunting the mayor's daughter down so he can taxidermy her, which is so sick. Chief Irons is a terrible person. He has no regard for human life and actively worked to make the Raccoon City incident even more tragic than it had to be. He's definitely one of the evilest villains in Resident Evil. Number 2, Oswald E. Spencer.
I was to become a god. Creating a new world with an advanced race of human beings.
Spencer can easily be considered the father of Resident Evil. Almost every bad thing that happens stems from something Spencer had a hand in. Spencer discovered the progenitor virus, which would be used to create the T-virus, and we all know how much havoc the T-virus wreaked across the series. If not for the T-virus, we wouldn't have seen Raccoon City go down, the forest around the Arklay Mountains contaminated with BOWs, and countless lives wouldn't have been lost. Umbrella as a corporation would never have been formed. Spencer is also the one who suggested they sell bioweapons to the US government to fund Umbrella's research. Let's talk about the progenitor virus for a second. Spencer discovered the progenitor virus on the Nandipaya people's land in Africa, And when he needed more of the progenitor virus for his experiments, he kicked the Nudipaya people off of their land so that he could take it. You can see why Spencer shot onto my top 3 evilest Resident Evil villains list. Spencer wasn't even a good guy to his colleagues. He often isolated them and plotted to steal their research. James Marcus, Umbrella's co-founder and Spencer's colleague, is a victim of this, as eventually Spencer stole Marcus's work on the T-virus and gave it to Albert Wesker and William Birkin to continue, and assassinated Marcus. No one's safe when it comes to Spencer. Even outside of his business practices, Spencer is awful. He hired George Trevor, an architect, to design and build the mansion in the Arklay Mountains and the Arklay Laboratory underneath it. Though once Trevor was finished, Spencer didn't like there was someone out there that knew the tricks to the mansion other than him. So what did Spencer do? Spencer invited George to bring his wife and his daughter to the mansion to celebrate the completion. Once they were all there, he dragged them all off to be used as guinea pigs in his experiments. Trevor and his wife Jessica tragically lost their lives, though Lisa survived, albeit mutated. Lisa was left to wander the mansion grounds and the underground parts of the mansion. How do you hire a guy to build your house and then reward him by experimenting on him and his family? Spencer's ultimate goal was to use his viruses to evolve people into superhumans and then become a god of this new populace of humans, which is incredibly vile and is what earned Spencer his spot on this list of top 3 evilest Resident Evil villains. Number 1. Albert Wesker.
The right to be a god. That right is now mine.
Where do we even start with Wesker? Wesker starts off strong in Resident Evil 1 when he betrays his entire STARS team to use as guinea pigs to test the bioweapons Umbrella had been developing in their Arklay laboratory. He didn't even flinch about it either. In fact, he took pleasure in it as he excitedly showed off Tyrant to Jill or Chris, depending on who you're playing as. Unforgivably, Wesker also forces Barry to help him carry out his orders in RE1 by threatening his family. Barry's a sweetheart, Wesker. Leave Barry alone.
You gotta love Barry.
Wesker goes on to infect himself with the T-virus to evolve into a superior human, in his opinion. To me, he just has some sick red eyes now and the zoomies. And then the Ouroboros virus, because I guess the T-virus didn't soup him up enough. Wesker is always looking to be a better version of himself, and can we really blame him for that? He's just on a journey of growth. In all seriousness though, Wesker rarely keeps these gifts to himself and is usually plotting to release these viruses into the world to end any person who's incompatible with them. AKA call any people not strong enough to evolve with the virus, and soup up all the people compatible with the virus to create a population of superhumans.
Evolution. It's a philosopher's stone, one that will choose through DNA who shall proceed to the next stage.
Which is really gross. Like with Barry in RE1, in RE5, Wesker has STARS member Jill Valentine forcibly in his employ. I don't know what's with Wesker making people work for him against their will, but that's his thing and is also very evil. Although Spencer can be considered the root cause of most of the tragedies that happen throughout Resident Evil, Wesker gets top billing over Spencer. They both wanted to force people into the next stage of evolution and then rule over that new population of superhumans as God, but Wesker comes way closer to achieving these goals than Spencer. What's worse, Wesker is trying to cull 6 billion people in the process, which puts him ahead of Spencer in my book, because if not for Chris stopping him at the last possible second, he really would have.
Ouroboros is on the eve of its appearance. 6 billion cries of agony will burn the new balance.
Wesker is a mainstay in Resident Evil. His flavor of evil usually takes the shape of creating the next big thing in bioweapons or the next big step in human evolution. His disgustingly evil plans can be overshadowed by how campy he is, but he definitely earned his spot on the list of top 3 Resident Evil villains. Your thoughts? I was so curious to know who y'all would pick as Resident Evil's evilest villain, so we took a poll here on YouTube asking exactly that. I wasn't super surprised to see that the majority of you picked Albert Wesker, though I did wonder at the start of the poll if Spencer might win out over Wesker. What really shocked me was that Chief Irons was winning out over Spencer, and at the time of me writing this script, Chief Irons and Spencer have an equal amount of votes. That either speaks to just how despicable Chief Irons is, or to Spencer being mostly off screen, and so not as big of a presence as Chief Irons, or both. I'd love to hear from anyone who voted for Spencer or Chief Irons as to why you picked them. Justin's Ada482 commented, "They're all really effed up in their own ways, but Wesker is like actual down to the molecular structure evil. I don't think even him fulfilling his plans would make him happy." I'd never really thought about what Wesker would do if he actually achieved his plans, but I agree with Justin that achieving his plans probably wouldn't even make him happy. He probably would have made new plans to elevate an even smaller amount of people and just imploded in on himself. Oz54732 commented, "Spencer, as without his input, Wesker, Chief Irons, Nemesis, and several other less important villains would not be able to become villains in the first place, as it was Spencer's work that made it possible. The only villains that may have been that way no matter the input from Spencer would be Sadler and Miranda." Spencer is definitely the origin of evil for most of Resident Evil. I almost put him as my number 1 for that reason, but Wesker edged him out in my eyes. Lastly, Set646 commented, "Albert Wesker was to take the place of the founder's spot in Umbrella, so by all means he is literally made to be evil. And Wesker probably watches incredibly bright cartoons because of the complete and total saturation." And I love that so much. Wesker has to watch bright, saturated cartoons because he won't take his dark sunglasses off either, even when he's inside. Resident Evil cuts the fluff when it comes to their villains. None of the 3 villains we listed today, Chief Irons, Oswald Spencer, or Albert Wesker, have anything in their backstories to justify how unapologetically evil they are, which I really love. We've long since entered an era in media where villains must be sympathetic and complicated, which can also be really fun. But I love that Resident Evil lets their villains shine as completely evil and irredeemable. Who is your favorite Resident Evil villain? Who would you put on your list of top 3 evil villains of Resident Evil? Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's video. If you liked it, share it with someone who wants to know more about Resident Evil lore. If you need more content, check out my Patreon. I upload articles I write on upcoming videos or just thought pieces on video games in general. You can also support me in the channel by becoming a channel member, or join us in Discord. We're always talking about video games. More importantly than that though, please take care of yourself and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.